From the Presidential Palace, Manila, Dateline Malacañang.
G'day, this is Dateline Malacañang. Malacañang condemned the violence that marred Sunday's mass protest in Manila, vowing to hold accountable masked agitators it branded as anarchists who hijacked what began as a peaceful demonstration against corruption. In a Palace Press briefing, Palace Press Officer Claire Castro said the rally was peaceful but was disrupted by a few who wanted trouble. Castro said President Marcos respected the people's right to assemble and express anger over irregularities in flood control projects, but warned against groups bent on sowing disorder. The unrest erupted at Ayala Bridge, where demonstrators hurled rocks and bottles, set tires ablaze, and torched a police motorcycle after overturning it. Violence later spread to Mendiola, where protesters clashed with anti-riot police.
Peaceful rally na samahan ng iilang nais manggulo. Mananagot ang lahat. Yan ang nais ni Pangulong Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. sa lahat ng sinumang gumamit ng karahasan sa naganap na peaceful rally noong linggo. Bilang isang public servant, pinakinggan ni Pangulong Marcos Jr. ang sigaw ng taumbayan. Managot ang lahat ng sangkot. Kaisa ng taumbayan si President Marcos Jr. laban sa korupsyon. Ang Pangulo mismo ang nagpasimula upang maimbestigahan ang maanumalyang flood control projects. Magpapatuloy din ang Pangulo sa naumpisahan na ito at sa tulong ng taumbayan na magiging matapang sa pagbunyag ng katotohanan, ang pang-aabuso sa kaban ng bayan ay mailalantad at malalabanan. Ang Pangulong Marcos Jr. ay handang tumugon sa hiling ng taumbayan kaya't nirespeto at patuloy na nirespeto ng Pangulo ang karapatang pantao. Hindi siya naging hadlang sa malaking protesta. Naglahad ng galit ang tao laban sa korupsyon. Ngunit, kinukondena ng administrasyong ito at ng Pangulo ang paggamit ng mga kabataan na gawing mga tulisan ng mga grupong itinatago ang mukha sa likod ng itim na maskara. Itim kung maituturing. Hindi sila rallyista na may lehitimong adhikain laban sa korupsyon, kundi gumawa lang ng kaharasan, magnakaw, manunog, at manira. Hindi kayo makakalagpas sa kamay ng batas at ang mga tao sa inyong likuran na gumamit sa inyo. Mga gahaman sa kapangyarihan. Hindi kayo dapat paligtasin. Hustisya ang uusig sa inyo.
Palace Press Officer Claire Castro.
Dateline Malacañang.
Meanwhile, authorities bared local terrorist groups may have attempted to sabotage Sunday's anti-corruption rallies in Metro Manila, prompting the government to heighten security measures and launch a probe into possible infiltration of the protests. In a press briefing in Malacañang on Monday, Interior Secretary John Vic Remulla confirmed that intelligence reports flagged a potential terror plot, including the possibility of a bombing either at Luneta or the People Power Monument, where thousands had gathered to protest against corruption.
Yes, that's why all contingencies were considered. Our biggest fear that did not happen was someone would incite violence during the People Power Monument rally, because the intent of the people there were peaceful. The intent of the people there were to air their grievances. The president encouraged them to go and heeded their message. He is listening to them. Alam niya naman, nakikinig naman siya at alam niya na papunta ron. Our biggest fear was that there would be instigation there. Buti na lang sa Mindiola nangyari at mas nakukontain namin yung situation.
Said more than 400 plainclothes operatives were deployed on the ground to foil possible attacks. Remulla also stressed that Malacañang remains under constant high alert after mass protesters instigate violence in areas near the palace compound. Sunday's demonstrations were part of nationwide anti-corruption rallies sparked by allegations of irregularities in multi-billion peso flood control projects. While most protests were peaceful, incidents of violence were reported near Malacañang, including in Mindiola, resulting in clashes with police and several arrests.
Dateline Malacañang.
The Philippines Department of Information and Communications Technology, or DICT, on Monday said 19 government websites were hacked and defaced, but there was no evidence of a data breach amid the protest actions against corruption on September 21st. In a palace press briefing, DICT Secretary Henry Aguda said of the 19 websites, 4 were websites of national government agencies or NGAs, while the rest were for local government units or LGUs. The 4 NGAs were the Anti-Red Tape Authority or ARTA, Bureau of Customs or BOC, DICT, and the Department of Economy, Planning and Development or DepDev. Aside from defacement, he said government websites face distributed denial of service or DDoS attacks and over 1.4 million failed breach attempts.
Of the 19 na nabanggit ko na deface, karamihan yun LGUs. 4 yung NGAs or national government agencies. Yung mga na-compromise naman sa kanila, ano lang like training modules, complaint platform, etc. So, and all of them naayos kaagad. Kasi prior to this weekend, we already have a list of government agencies na nasa target list nila. So, yung 4 na yon, inconsequential yung nangyari sa kanila. The other attacks na ginagawa nila is DDoS. They're trying to overwhelm some of the websites. And so far naman, madali namang naayos. To date, wala pa kaming verified report of exfiltration. So wala pang personal information na nawala.
Anonymous PH, a group of cyber hacktivists, is suspected of being involved in the attacks. He said a person of interest is also being pursued in coordination with law enforcement agencies, but declined to share information on the suspect's identity as part of the investigation.
So, ang common denominator is the actor called Anonymous PH. So, doon namin na track down. And the chatter in the cybersecurity community is pointing to them. Although I've reached out to them, sabi nila hindi daw sila. So sabi ko, di disavow nyo. Well, there's a person of interest right now that we're pursuing. We're coordinating with the law enforcement. And yun na lang, in the next coming days or weeks siguro, we'll give you an update. So yun yung common dun sa mga yan. Well, he's in country. Yun lang siguro. And I think I will defer giving additional information para hindi naman masayang yung investigation process.
Of Information and Communications Technology Secretary Henry Aguda.
Dateline Malacañang.
Malacañang on Monday asked the Department of Justice or DOJ and the Philippine National Police or PNP to investigate former Ilocos Sur Governor Luis Chavit Singson for possible inciting to sedition charges after urging students to join a revolution against corruption. In a Palace Press briefing, Palace Press Officer Claire Castro said, President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. wants accountability from those who may have incited violence during Sunday's rallies. Castro said Singson allegedly encouraged minors to skip classes to join the protests. The Palace Press Officer said it is up to the DOJ and law enforcement agencies to determine if Singson's remarks fall under inciting to sedition, which is punishable by up to 6 years under the revised penal code.
Ang gusto po ng Pangulo ay managot. Ang lahat na maaaring managot at lahat na maaaring sangkot sa marahas na nangyari. Iilan lamang, pero naging marahas ang ilan sa naging rally nitong linggo. So tayo na po ang makikiusap sa pamunuan po, especially kay Secretary John Vic Rimulya, kay Acting PNP Chief General Natartes Jr., and of course sa DOJ, na busisiin mismo ang mga sinabi ni Mr. Chavit Singson. Dahil doon, inakit niya ang mga kabataan, especially high school students, college students, at karamihan dito malamang ay mga minor de edad, upang malaman nila at iniyahan ito na huwag pumasok sa eskwelahan. At habang hindi bumababa ang mga taong gusto nilang pababain. At sila pa, at si Mr. Chavit Singson pa ang nagsabi na hayaan ng mga magulang ang mga batang ito na tumayo para sa isang revolusyon para sa korupsyon. So, dapat maimbestigahan ito upang malaman kung siya ay maaaring makasuhan ng inciting to sedition.
That was Palace Press Officer Claire Castro.
Dateline Malacañang.
Malacañang on Monday said Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.'s aggressive push against corruption is key to protecting the country's investment climate, even as massive anti-corruption protests rocked Metro Manila and other parts of the country over the weekend. Asked about reputational risk from the unrest during a media briefing, Palace Press Officer Claire Castro said investors are drawn to leaders who confront corruption head-on. She cited President Marcos's unprecedented move to order an investigation into alleged anomalies in flood control projects, even if these occurred under his own administration. Castro stressed that transparency and accountability will bolster investor confidence despite images of street clashes dominating global news.
Well, anyway, we all know that investors want to invest in countries whose leaders fight corruption, whose leaders are willing to put in jail people who are corrupt. And that is what the President is doing right now. Siya lamang po ang presidente na nagpapaimbestiga ng malawakang anomalya, especially itong flood control projects, kahit sa panahon ng kanyang administrasyon. Wala sino man sa ngayon na nalalaman tayo na pinaimbestigahan niya ang sariling administrasyon. Lahat halos ay nagmamalinis. Pero ang Pangulo ay matapang na lumabas upang ipaalam sa tao ang maaaring pang-aabuso sa kaban ng bayan. So sa tingin natin, with that, we believe na lahat ng investors masahangaan ng Pangulo dahil lumalaban sa korupsyon.
Metro Manila and several provinces on Sunday to denounce corruption, particularly in the multi-billion-dollar flood control projects. Violence flared at Mendiola and Ayala Bridge as mass protesters clashed with police in an attempt to raid Malacañang Palace. The president has created an independent body to probe the anomalies which he first uncovered in his 2025 State of the Nation address.
Dateline Malacañang.
Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. on Monday assured the public that government agencies are on full alert and closely monitoring the situation in areas affected by Super Typhoon Nando. In a statement read by Palace Press Officer Claire Castro during a Palace Press briefing, the president said preemptive evacuations have been conducted and they are immediately addressing the needs of those in evacuation centers.
Nakatanggap tayo ng mga ulat mula sa iba't ibang probinsya ukol sa bagyong Nando. Malalakas ang hangin na nararanasan ngunit sa ngayon ay hindi pa malakas ang ulan. May mga isinasagawang preemptive evacuation at tinutugunan agad natin ang pangangailangan ng mga nasa evacuation centers. Mahigpit nating minomonitor ang sitwasyon at nakaalerto ang lahat ng ahensya ng pamahalaan upang makapagbigay ng tulong saan man at kailanman kakailanganin. Yan po ang mensahe ng ating Pangulo.
5 in the morning weather bulletin on Tuesday, the Philippine Atmospheric Geophysical and Astronomical Services Administration, or PAGASA, said Super Typhoon Nando continues to weaken and is about to exit the Philippine area of responsibility. The center of the eye of Super Typhoon Nando was estimated, based on all available data, 265 kilometers west of Calayan, Cagayan, moving westward at 20 kilometers per hour. Nando's maximum sustained winds is at 185 kilometers per hour near the center and gustiness of up to 230 kilometers per hour.
Dateline Malacañang.
Malacañang on Monday said Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. is open to scrutiny following a Philippine Center for Investigative Journalism, or PCIJ, report that he was among those who received millions of pesos in campaign contributions from contractors during the 2022 elections. In a Palace Press briefing, Palace Press Officer Claire Castro said the Commission on Elections, or COMELEC, should be allowed to review the matter independently. Under the Omnibus Election Code, candidates are prohibited from accepting donations from entities with government contracts. Asked if President Marcos would submit himself to the Independent Commission for Infrastructure, or ICI, a body he created to probe flood control anomalies, Castro said the president will not excuse himself.
Let the COMELEC do its job. Investigate. The president is willing to be investigated. Opo, matapang po ang Pangulo at alam po niya ang kanyang ginagawa at kung ano man ang maaari maimbestigahan dito, hindi rin po niya i-excuse ang sarili niya.
Citing campaign finance records, the PCIJ recently reported that Tycoon Rodolfo Hilot Jr., owner of Zamboanga del Sur-based Rodhill Construction and Enterprises Incorporated, donated 20 million pesos to President Marcos's 2022 campaign, while Cebu-based contractor Jonathan Quirante gave 1 million pesos. Both firms reportedly saw steep increases in public works contracts after the election, with Quirante Construction's awards rising to 3 billion pesos in 2023 alone. The COMELEC has yet to comment on whether it will initiate a probe into the contractors' contributions.
Dateline Malacañang.
And finally, 2 Taiwanese nationals allegedly behind the illegal recruitment of Filipinos for scam hubs abroad were arrested, while 5 aspiring overseas Filipino workers, or OFWs, were rescued at Ninoy Aquino International Airport or NAIA Terminal 3 in Pasay City on Monday. In a news release, the Department of Migrant Workers, or DMW, said the operation was done in coordination with the Overseas Workers Welfare Administration, or OWA, Philippine National Police Women and Children Protection Center, Bureau of Immigration, Interagency Council Against Trafficking, and NAIA Task Force Against Trafficking. DMW Secretary Hans Leo said the arrest of these illegal recruiters and human traffickers is the government's bold and firm message to protect fellow Filipinos from exploitation. The Taiwanese suspects were intercepted while escorting the victims, 3 males and 2 females, who were promised lucrative jobs in Cambodia as customer service representatives. Kakdak said the victims were lured through social media and messaging platforms with the promise of monthly salaries ranging from $800 to $1,000. Investigators later confirmed that the job offers were fictitious and tied to cyber fraud operations proliferating in Southeast Asia. Kakdak lauded the swift interagency coordination, stressing that the operation was carried out in line with President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.'s directive to strengthen protection for Filipino workers against trafficking syndicates. The DMW said the 2 Taiwanese nationals face charges of illegal recruitment and human trafficking under the Migrant Workers and Overseas Filipinos Act and the Anti-Trafficking in Persons Act.
Dateline Malacañang.
Before we conclude our program, Radyo Pilipinas World Service of the Presidential Broadcast Service is live on audio streaming. Just download Evox PBS receiver on your Google Play Store or the App Store from your Apple phone. You can also visit our Facebook page and YouTube channel. Just type in and search for Radyo Pilipinas World Service. Kindly subscribe, like, and share our posts as well. And that concludes this edition of Dateline Malacañang. For Radyo Pilipinas World Service, this is Leo Magpayo. Good day and stay safe.
From the Presidential Palace, Manila, Dateline Malacañang.